Hello everyone. Around 8 to 9 a.m. on March 30th of 2024, which was just the Easter weekend that has passed, 27-year-old Veronica Butler and her friend, 39-year-old Jillian Kelley, would leave their town of Hugoton, Kansas and drive south to the very rural area of Eva, Oklahoma. And they were driving there to pick up Veronica's two children from their paternal grandmother. Now, the destination meeting spot is said to be an area called the Four Corners. However, I couldn't find an exact location for this. I want to assume it's at the intersection of two roads since it's called the Four Corners. This area here, as you can see on the map, is going to be the closest to where the women were last thought to be. So it is possible that it is maybe these four corners, but correct me if I'm wrong. Now, after this pickup, Veronica and her children were supposed to head to a birthday party. However, when 10 a.m. rolled around and Veronica and Jillian's spouses hadn't heard from them, hadn't seen from them, they began to worry. They ended up calling authorities and they began to drive the route that they knew the two women would have taken. Jillian's husband, along with another pastor named Tim Singer, also began driving around looking. Now, just an hour or so after the women had left, around 10:30 a.m., the blue Kia that the women had been driving ended up being found abandoned just south of the Kansas border in Texas County, Oklahoma, on Highway 95, which is part of the Panhandle. And specifically, it was found near Road L on Highway 95, just 3 miles from the women's pickup destination. Now, I've mainly been seeing it reported that it was the police that found the vehicle, but then I've also seen it reported that Veronica's fiance/husband found it while driving the route trying to find them. Either way, the vehicle ended up being found, and after authorities assessed the vehicle, they ended up coming out and reporting the evidence they found in the vehicle indicated foul play was involved. Now, despite the vehicle being found, the women were not inside of the vehicle, and police have not really reported much about what they did find inside of the vehicle or what they didn't find, which really makes me wonder what they found inside of this vehicle. However, there at least have been 1 or 2 witnesses that have come forward claiming that they had actually witnessed the vehicle before police found it. And one of these people claimed that they witnessed a window smashed in the vehicle. They claimed they called 911 and they reported the abandoned vehicle as well. Now, reporters have also claimed that they spoke to a male witness who's seen the car and said it was parked in more of like the brush area, not exactly along the side of the road like you would do if you were just simply pulling over on the side of the road. So it was a little farther off the road. And this witness also allegedly claimed that when they seen the vehicle, no one was around it. On top of that, I've also seen claims that the women's phone last pinged where the vehicle was found.
To hit the spot where the women's vehicle was found. But we want to show you some drone video that we have taken of this very spot where that blue SUV was found on March 30th. And as you can see, when it lifts up and around from that location, that's what we're talking about. Flat, wide, and we've been looking for grid searches. Leland, you and I have talked about missing person cases for decades on the air together. And usually we see grid search. We see K9 units. We see a command post. We don't see anything like that right now.
At 6:15 p.m. that night, Oklahoma Highway Patrol would issue a missing and endangered alert for both Veronica and Jillian. Police would end up heading over to the paternal grandparents' house for a welfare check. However, I have not seen anything reported for what the grandmother claims happened, if they went to this pickup spot and they just didn't show up, why they didn't call the police. That's a big question I have. Why hasn't any of the paternal parents, grandparents, whatever side of the family reported anything if the women didn't show up when they were supposed to? Or did they? And police just haven't said that. The information on this case is honestly very sparse and it's kind of all over the place. And I've seen certain news outlets reporting certain information that's actually incorrect, which is a little shocking to me because I usually find that these sources cover things pretty accurately, or at least they do their research. But for whatever reason in this case, I have seen things that have been reported that then I've went back and questioned if I'm crazy and that I found the wrong information, but then I do more digging and I found that the news outlets reported the wrong information. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm just saying, take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to cases. Do your own research as well, please. And if I got anything wrong, please let me know down below. Let's chat about it. Let's chat about what the correct information actually is. Because with this case especially, the information is kind of all over the place. And I've spent the entire last week looking into this case, trying to piece things together. And it's actually been pretty hard. But what I do really wonder is if these two women didn't show up when they were supposed to, and it seemed to be a thing that Veronica often did, was go and pick up the children at a designated time at a designated spot, you'd think that that would be weird if she just vanished and didn't show up. And it seems like these two women quite literally vanished.
There's no doubt that everybody in town is concerned.
Pain grows from the unknown.
I see those yellow bows and think, well, maybe today, maybe we'll know today.
Debbie Nordling knows Veronica and Jillian. She is still trying to wrap her head around their disappearance.
I understand when one person might be in trouble, but to me it makes no sense when two of them were together. And these were very intelligent ladies.
Trying to hold on to hope through the heartache.
And we want to know that they're okay and they're going to come back, but as the days roll by, it's just getting harder and harder to stay positive and keep the faith, and it's just hard.
The splashes of yellow
Houses and businesses and mailboxes
are a symbol of support the community is giving to the families and each other.
So many people would come in and maybe buy one bow to take home, or maybe they would buy 3 or 4, but the donations were so wonderful.
They're not forgotten, and that's the most important thing. No matter what people can do, is just don't forget.
A town determined to never stop searching for answers.
So let's talk about our 2 missing women here. Now, Jillian is actually the wife of a pastor at the First Christian Church in Hugoton and works as a secretary at that church. Recently, they've also planned to move to Indianola, Nebraska after her husband was called to serve as the new pastor at Willow Christian Church there. She's described as a kind gardening enthusiast. She seems to have quite a large family. She has lots of lovely pictures with her children and her husband. And I haven't seen anyone say anything bad about her at all, honestly. She seems to be quite a lovely woman. And both women seem to be involved in church communities in Hugoton, Kansas. Veronica, I've seen on her Facebook, has her own business creating handmade custom air fresheners. She has lots of photos as well with her children on her Facebook, and she was constantly posting life highlights on her Facebook. Now, a lot of news outlets have reported that Jillian and Veronica were actually friends. Now, the longer I research this case and the deeper I look, it more so seems like Jillian was actually simply a supervisor for these visitations that Veronica would go on. Because it would turn out that Veronica actually only had temporary supervised custody of her children, and she was actually in a very kind of scary, heated custody battle with her ex and the father of her children, Wrangler Rickman. So how deep their friendship actually went isn't really detailed. They more so do seem like they could just be acquaintances. They were Facebook friends. I just don't know how deep their friendship does truly go. But I think it is really important to dive into this custody situation. And I'm not doing that to bash anyone, but I do think that this information could be important to where these 2 women are and what happened to them. And I do think learning about people's past can reflect what may have happened to them in the future. And honestly, this information hasn't really been reported on in the media. I honestly didn't see any of this reported in the media, and I had to go and do my own digging, and I found quite a few things that were very concerning. So Wrangler's mother, Tiffany Adams, is the one who has custody of the 2 children, the allegations being due to neglect on Veronica's part, and then some other very serious allegations that I couldn't fully confirm, so we're not going to be talking about those today. It said that Wrangler's mother only got custody of the children in November of 2023, so just a few months before Veronica and Jillian would disappear. And it's also said that Veronica only had supervised visitation with her children every Saturday, which was the date that she was going to pick up the children to see them. And Jillian's actually one of 4 individuals who was named in the court documents who could supervise these visits. So Jillian wasn't the only person who would go on these visits, and it may even be more so that she was more often not. And this may have been one of few or even the only time that she'd gone at one of these visitations. The next custody hearing was said to be on April 17th, so not long after Jillian and Veronica went missing. It's actually only about a week or so from when I'm filming this video. And there seems to be numerous court cases throughout the years between Wrangler and Veronica. One news outlet writing, and I quote, Butler's stepmother, Guadalupe Torres, and father, Clinton Butler, separately told NBC News that Veronica had been engaged in a heated custody dispute. Court records show a custody case was opened in late March 2015 and closed nearly a month later. End quote. There were also court records online that showed the most recent custody dispute. However, just days after the women disappeared and a bunch of web sleuths found these court records and were discussing them, they mysteriously, out of nowhere, got sealed, and now no one can view or access the most recent court records. So that's led people to speculate if this most recent custody dispute that's going on right now has something to do with these women going missing. And if that is true, there may be something scarier and darker going on here than any of us know. I did, however, get to read some of the older court documents from previous custody disputes. And these honestly weren't extremely shocking to me. When you get into custody disputes, there's always a he said, she said. That's basically how these went. There was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of claims against the other person. But I do think things like this can be important. One passage from a 2022 court hearing read that Veronica and Wrangler had had their children when they were quite young, and that Veronica had traveled from Oklahoma to Kansas to Colorado with them without Wrangler's knowledge in order to disrupt their relationship with their father. It claims that Veronica pitted her children against their father and made them think that he was a dangerous man. It was said that Veronica eventually found a permanent residence and became a nurse. However, things got hairier when I read that Wrangler, and I quote, disagreed pertaining to the school the children should attend, mother's choice of caregivers, and mother's decision to notify father or seek medical attention when the oldest child was bitten by a family dog. Now, on Veronica's side, she was claiming that Wrangler had abused one of their children. However, she couldn't provide photographic evidence of bruising to the child's neck. DHS workers would then testify on behalf of Wrangler, stating, and I quote, everything appeared to be appropriate with the father and the children. End quote. But what makes this even crazier is the sheriff actually testified, saying that he didn't witness any abuse during exchanges when they attended them. And it seemed like eventually the sheriff's office was just fed up with this back and forth and this argument, and they ended up not wanting to participate in these exchanges anymore, which seems to be why eventually there were other people appointed to being part of these exchanges. That's what I'm getting from it. These documents also listed a number of times that Veronica jumped from job to job, claimed she would withhold the children from seeing their father and paternal grandparents. One story that they told in these documents was that their 4-year-old at the time was in a school program of some sort, but when Veronica found out that Wrangler and his family wanted to go attend and watch whatever this program was, she ended up pulling the child out, saying that child, and I quote, didn't want to go, end quote. It's also admitted that Veronica's fiance moved in and out of the home. There's extensive talk about the dog biting one of the children, as I mentioned above, and that the dog bit the child in the face and that it broke the skin, but nothing was done about it. There was also mentioned that a photo was taken a week after the child was bit in the face. There's other claims that Veronica would leave the children with Wrangler's grandmother, who owned turkeys, and that these turkeys would peck at the children and break their skin. Another claim read, and I quote, just the week before the first day of trial, redacted child's name returned from Veronica's care with a scratch under her eye, and that she said the dog had given her and a very serious bruise on her privates. End quote. The documents would further claim that Veronica would bring boyfriends to the home, that people would come over and party and do drugs, but in the 2022 documents, they seem to come to a conclusion that they wanted 50-50 custody, and in the end, things seem to be somewhat fine. Veronica's witnesses said she was a loving and attentive parent. Wrangler's witnesses disclosed that he maintained a flexible job working as a farmhand at the time. I also seen he worked as a cook at like a truck stop in previous years, but it was better for him to work as the farmhand because his schedule was more flexible. And I'm pretty sure he worked for his mother's boyfriend, but his witnesses also stated that Wrangler provided the children with a clean and well-kept home and that he was an available doting father. So in the end, it seemed like things were fine. However, as things progressed to 2023, the claims seemed to get worse and worse and worse. And then eventually Veronica lost custody, it seemed. Now, as I said, hearing all of that, there was a lot of bad mouthing back and forth, a lot of bashing towards Veronica in these documents, honestly. But Wrangler isn't any cleaner, because it would turn out that just 2 weeks before Veronica and Jillian went missing, Wrangler had just gotten out of prison. And he was booked on February 21st of this year for domestic assault and battery against a pregnant woman, as well as public intoxication. So let's talk about Wrangler for a moment. Wrangler's rap sheet is concerning, to say the least. He has a lot of claims against him that have been made public. He has a 2022 child restraint violation, which he pleaded no contest to, a 2023 charge for possession of firearms, which he pleaded no contest to, and then back in 2017, he has a distribution possession with intent to distribute non-specific drugs at least 3.5 grams less than 100 grams. It's also being reported that Wrangler also has issues with substance abuse and that there was bad blood between Veronica and Wrangler's mother. Now, from what I read, the court ordered Wrangler into rehab on March 22nd. So just after he got out of prison, the court ordered him to go to rehab, and then the women went missing. And from what I've read, it's alleged that he has to be there for 30 days, he can't have any contact with anyone, and he can't leave. And there has been a lot of speculation, honestly, that Wrangler may be involved with these two women going missing, considering this very contentious court battle that's been happening for years and years and years over the children. However, it seems that Wrangler was actually in rehab, and he wasn't allowed to leave when they went missing. Now, could someone else involved with him be involved? Maybe. And that is because this case does remind me, and it seems like a lot of people, of the Pike County Massacre case. And I'm not saying whatsoever that that's what's happening here with this case, but it is strange that Veronica and her custody supervisor, Jillian, have now gone missing while in the process of heading to a custody exchange in a rural area. It is strange. But as you can see, this was overall a very huge, scary legal mess that Jillian was in the middle of as the supervisor trying to help Veronica out. And now these two women are missing. But let's jump back to more current times, because the next day after the woman went missing on March 31st, it was announced that the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation was going to be joining the search. And I'm guessing that is because state lines were crossed. Volunteers on horseback have also been helping police comb the area around where the vehicle was found.
What made you want to come out here and search?
Just nobody looking, and I felt bad for them. I have a farm with horses, and we had talked to the sheriff, and he said, we'll take all the help we can get. And so I called my hand and I was like, let's go.
When you get on these horses, what are you guys going to be looking for? What are you hoping to spot?
Grass that's been knocked over, or just anything tracking wise, footprints, tire tracks, whatever goes off into the grass, or just any signs of foul play.
Another thing that is kind of a challenge in this case is not only is the signal in this area very bad because it is such a rural area, but also because it's so rural, I think I've seen there's only a population of like 28,000 people in the entire panhandle. This means there's not going to honestly be a lot of security cameras or witnesses in the area to help bring information in that could likely lead to more tips and more leads for the police to try to figure out what happened here. You know, it's not like this happened in a city or even a smaller town. This happened in a very rural, desolate area. And I do want to talk about this area the vehicle was found in, because authorities would go on to search the area around where the vehicle was abandoned. And it's said to have been abandoned around 11 miles south of Elkhart, which, as you can see from Google Maps here, it looks like it's a lot of just open fields, desert type terrain as far as the eye can see. This area is also about 45 minutes from their original destination in Hugoton, near Yarborough Public School, which is where Veronica had graduated from in 2015, and her children may also attend this school. And as you can see, the school is the only thing in the area. It's a very desolate place. And as soon as the information came out about Jillian and Veronica being missing and their vehicle being found, the school actually went into lockdown for the last few days since all of this has occurred. And authorities are saying that the school was not told to go into lockdown, but they made the decision themselves. And as you can see from this post from the school's website, they are in lockdown.
Is causing concern among parents of students at Yarborough schools. The school is locked down today, and the district says it will reevaluate the lockdown again tomorrow. These two women, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelley, were traveling from Kansas through the panhandle of Oklahoma. OSBI says their car was found empty nearly 3 miles from Yarborough schools last Saturday.
But that's honestly all the information we really have. The big question I have is, how did someone stop these two women during their drive and overpower them both? That's what really needs to be figured out here, because it's not like they were just walking on the side of the road or going for a jog. They were in a moving vehicle. So what caused them to stop? And it makes me wonder, since police did say they found signs of foul play, if they found some reason that the car was forcibly stopped, whether that be maybe a weapon was used, was a bullet possibly fired through the window that caused it to shatter that would cause the women to pull over. Could something have been thrown through the window that caused it to shatter and also make the women pull over? It makes me wonder if the pickup location had changed, possibly, if it was something to do with this custody dispute, and that is why the women were over by the school area. Maybe the pickup location changed to around the school. This case is truly scary because it seems that these two women did the correct thing to be safe during a custody exchange. It's not like Veronica went alone and disappeared. She had someone there who was supposed to be there for this exact reason, so something bad didn't happen. And yet still, these women somehow still were ambushed and kidnapped. It honestly makes my heart hurt for these children and for these families, because Jillian has children too and a husband who is waiting and praying for her to come home. And to think that custody exchanges happen every single day, especially with violent partners, how dangerous that could be. And you'd think taking precautions would lower the risk of something bad happening. However, it seems to not have in this case. And the fact that the school is in lockdown, I'm pretty sure Veronica's children may go to that school as well. I've seen it in the court documents. So that also might be why the school is in lockdown, to protect the children and her children, especially since their mother's missing. They may be worried that someone might come and take her children as well. But it really does cause alarm. Like, what do they know that the public doesn't know about how dangerous this situation truly is if the school needs to go into lockdown? That's what's so scary. And it makes me wonder, what really are the chances that this was a stranger abduction? I haven't done too much research into the Panhandle, but I have seen in the past when I've done some research into it that it is such a rural area, so there may be higher crime there. So is a stranger abduction possible? I mean, maybe. But what are the chances that someone was just driving by and decided to literally stop a vehicle to kidnap these women, especially if they didn't know these women at all? I think the chances of that are a lot lower. In my opinion, I feel like this had to have been someone who knew that these two women were going down there to pick these children up, because the women disappeared from near where this pickup destination was. They had plans that day for the birthday party that they weren't going to miss, especially since Jillian seems to be so far removed from the other, dangerous side of this situation. She was just there to help and support and be part of this process to try to just keep everyone safe, make sure the kids are safe. And yet Jillian got dragged into all of this as well now, it seems. And I truly think that Veronica was probably the target. Now, let me know if you think I'm wrong or if you think that there's some other things at play here. But from everything that we do know, it truly does seem, in my opinion, that Veronica seemed to be the target and Jillian just seemed to be a bystander in this that also now is missing. Especially since it doesn't seem like Jillian would go on these trips every single time. But as I've said, police have announced that there was evidence of foul play in the vehicle, which means something bad most likely happened, which is extremely tragic. But I am still holding out hope that these two women are alive out there somewhere and that they can be brought home to their families. But what do you think happened to these two women? Where do you think they are right now? Let's take a look at them one more time. Veronica is 5'4" with red hair and green eyes. She was last seen wearing blue short sleeve shirt, denim shorts, and Hey Dude shoes. She also has a tattoo of a Chinese symbol on her left forearm and a sunflower on her left shoulder. Jillian has blonde-dyed brown hair and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing whitewashed blue jeans, a long-sleeve shirt, and tan or beige shoes. She has a butterfly tattoo on her left forearm. Let's have a big conversation down below in the chat. If you have any information that I didn't include in this video today, I'm interested in it. Let's chat about it. And as I said, my heart goes out to both Veronica and Jillian's families. As more information comes out, I will let you all know about it. And as always, I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I will see you in the next video.